Attention!
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, terrible twins and galaxy-dominating gastropods alike, welcome to the grand finale of Series 3 of the Polis Box Live. Tonight we conclude our trial of Series 21 of Doctor Who as we put the Twin Dilemma on trial. Now, the Twin Dilemma is notorious for many things in the world of Doctor Who fandom, often to be found languishing at the bottom of episode polls. It features many tonal handbrake turns, but perhaps the main bone of contention for fans is the acting talents of brothers Gavin and Andrew Conrad, who play Romulus and Remus. Many fans struggle with their somewhat stilted and wooden performances and their inability to deliver lengthy and wordy pieces of dialogue in a convincing fashion throughout. However, that won't be a problem tonight, as I'm joined as ever by two men who are more than well versed in watching videos of 18-year-old twins struggling to cope with a mouthful. It's Cameron Phillips and David Cummings.
That's not where I thought that was going to go.
That was quite a shift in the end there. Yeah.
But that was, yeah.
Pitches a wee curveball right at the end of this series. There you go.
Yeah, that was good. That was good. It's good. I don't know where you got that idea from. But,
Welcome along, everybody. It's the grand finale of Series 3 of the Polis Box. Tonight, we've got quite the episode lined up for you. For one thing, we've got an actual bona fide world exclusive lined up to take us into our half-time break later on, so stay tuned for that. That's exciting. But talking of big deals, it's time to introduce tonight's guest. We are joined tonight by a man famed in Doctor Who podcast circles for his regular in-depth analysis of Doctor Who stories. He's the man who makes War and Peace look like a pamphlet, the man who makes James Joyce's Ulysses read like a shopping list. He's famous for his length, and if you ask him nicely, there's every possibility he'll show you that tonight. He's the one and only Mr. Frazer Gregory.
Good evening. What an introduction. Thank you very much.
How are you, Frazer?
I'm going to try and keep it short now. Fine. Thank you.
Don't change a habit of a lifetime, man. Come on, we expect the length.
I'm buzzing. This is unusual for me. Usually I'm the most northern person on a podcast, but I'm not tonight.
You're practically a next door neighbour. Yeah, it's frozen.
Oh.
And that was
frozen.
Yes. He's back. He's back in the room. Oh, okay.
It's the southern internet. It doesn't work very well.
No. All that.
So this is it then. This is the grand finale of Series 3 of the Polis Box Live. Before we go any further tonight, let's take a look at the series results so far. It's been a bit of a one-way traffic all the way through the series. Cameron's only win came in the first episode when Warriors of the Deep was found guilty by 58%.
Sorry, whoa. Is one-way traffic throughout the whole series, and you just start talking about how I won the first one?
Mostly one-way traffic.
Thank you.
Sometimes the car goes the opposite way down the street, okay?
Yeah.
The awakening was found...
Somebody's a bit argumentative tonight.
Yes, a wee bit, yeah. He's got an Aggie already. The Awakening and Frontiers were found not guilty by 90%. Resurrection of the Daleks, not guilty by 67%. Planet of Fire got off the hook last time round with Dylan Reese. Caves of Androzani was found not guilty by 84% to 16%. All of which means that Dave is leading the series 5-1, every Jambo's favourite scoreline, with one trial remaining, and that's tonight.
Yep, it doesn't matter. I don't care. I can give up now.
That's the spirit.
Hi, Dave. Nice to be talking to you.
Yep, see you later.
So there we go. That's where we stand tonight with a final trial waiting in the wings. So without any further ado, shall we just get on with that?
That's probably the format. Yep, so we probably should.
Okay, let's do that then. It's time for the final time to go back to 1984, the rock and roll years. A brand new doctor gets to road test his companion by applying the throttle before releasing the choke. But will his methods be found guilty or not guilty of crimes against Doctor Who? Let's find out as we put the twin dilemma on trial.
We all have to repress our feelings from time to time. I suggest you get back into the habit.
And I would suggest, Perry, that you wait a little before criticizing my new persona. You may well find it isn't quite as disagreeable as you think.
Well, I hope so.
Whatever else happens, I am the Doctor. Whether you like it or not.
I have a picture pinned to my wall, an image of you and of me, and we're laughing with love at it all. Look at our life now, all tattered and torn. We fuss and we fight and delight in the tears that we cry until dawn.
The Twin Dilemma was written by Anthony Stephen, directed by Peter Moffat, and produced by John Nathan Turner, with music by Malcolm Clark. It starred Colin Baker as the Doctor and Nicola Bryant as Perry, with Maurice Derham as Professor Edgeworth Asmail, Edwin Richfield as Mestor, Kevin McNally as Hugo Lang, Dennis Chinnery as Sylvester, Gavin Conrad as Romulus, Andrew Conrad as Remus, Seymour Green as Chamberlain, Oliver Smith as Drac, Barry Stanton as Noma, Dion Inman as Elena, and Helen Blatch as Fabian. It was broadcast between Thursday the 22nd and Friday the 30th of March 1984, and the viewing figures were 7.6 million for Part 1, 7.4 million for Part 2, 7 million for Part 3, and 6.3 million for Part 4. Those are the facts behind the fiction. Let's just give you a couple of reminders before we get properly underway tonight. You can get in touch and give us your thoughts on the Twin Dilemma. All you have to do is send us a comment through the live chat box on the YouTube video watching right now, and we'll put them up on screen as they come in. We've had a few of those already, so let's look at them. The Timescales has been in touch to say greetings from San Francisco. Good evening, Timescales.
Greetings.
Same neck of the woods. It's Joe Llewellyn who says hello from far northern California.
Hi, Joe.
Hello.
Our international audience.
Exactly. Friends all over the world, none in this country. Gary to say it's not guilty. It gave us Colin's quote.
Oh, Jesus, we've started early.
Getting the punches in early. And finally, for the moment, it's hello, Frazer, frequent partner in crime, Cy Hart here. Good evening, Cy.
Hey, Cy.
Nice.
Hello.
So it's kind of 3 against 1 now.
Probably.
So there you go. We'll put all your messages up on screen as they come in. Just time to remind you that voting is now open. So based on the arguments put forward by Cameron, Dave and Fraser tonight, you get to decide whether the Twin Dilemma is guilty or not guilty of crimes against Doctor Who. There is a poll up on Twitter. You go to our Twitter page at the Polis Box, or clicking the link in the YouTube video you're watching right now. It'll take you to the poll. Cast your vote, reveal the results at the end of tonight's live show. So there we go. Without any further ado, shall we get this court into session?
That's the format.
Probably a good idea, yeah.
That is the format.
And it will remain so.
This court is now in session.
Order in the court now. Can't nobody smoke now.
The trial of the twin dilemma is now underway. Here's who's doing what tonight. Dave and Fraser will be defending the twin dilemma. Cameron, as he's done throughout the course of the series, will be prosecuting the twin dilemma. We've had quite a lot of viewer evidence tonight, so let's go to part one of this.
This is the law. Chapter 1.
A big old bunch of viewer evidence is coming to us for this one, so we're going to split it in two. We're going to do half right now and half after the halftime break. So let's get into it and see what the viewers are saying. First up, Mark Dunlop has been in touch to say, I watched this recently for the first time in 40 years. It's brutal. Bad story, bad script, bad ideas, bad production, bad acting, bad costumes, bad villain. Morris Denham is the only good thing about it.
So we've got a good thing.
Yep.
We'll take that.
And also, villains are meant to be bad. That's the whole point of it.
Yeah.
What a variant, lad. So that's Mark's views on the twin dilemma. Next up is David Gillespie Pratt, who says this: not guilty. I mean, imagine watching a new Doctor on a story recorded at the end of a long year where the money was running out with visual effects that just don't work. But enough about Robot. And I think I prefer twin dilemma to Robot after all.
Yep, not guilty.
That's
guilty.
Certainly that's a take, yeah.
Level-headed, intelligent viewpoint.
Exactly. It's not going to be all plain sailing for you tonight, Cam. It's not going to be a last. If that's anything to go by.
Wasn't thinking it was going to be.
That's not what you were saying before we came on air. One day I'll
Dead Robot as in the series, not as in one tonight.
Yeah. And
There's that
anyone
back one.
I will tell you, what happens off camera stays off camera.
Of course.
Until we've put the Christmas special tapes out. Next up, all aboard. It's a good ship shugster who says, I used to think it was shite and hate it, but now I know it's shite and I love it. I'd like to think it's what would happen if you locked a group of 12-year-olds in a television studio and gave them a massive bag of cocaine just to see what would happen. Without scraggy knob, get in.
Yep.
I mean, if the rumours about Russell T Davies are to be believed, you don't have to have the 12-year-olds in the studio and a bag of cocaine. Just, you know what I'm saying. Allegations.
Allegations made entirely in the WhatsApp group that we are part of.
The Polish Box's legal department would like to say there is no evidence at all whatsoever that any scriptwriter of Doctor Who has ever been on drugs.
Apart from all the books that came out about it. But the current one, no, probably not.
No,
honest to my lads.
never.
We can't prove
In
it
a
at this
million
time.
One man who is definitely not on a bag of cocaine is Mark Donaldson, who has been in touch to say the twin dilemma. The twin dilemma? What's the dilemma here? Just let muster murder the little twats.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you.
He's missing one there. If he's going to do it proper Colin Baker style, it's got to be the twin dilemma. The twin dilemma. The twin dilemma. That's how you do it.
Yeah. True. So close to the perfect call. Next up is the man who was meant to be here tonight, but sadly circumstances have dictated that he couldn't make it, so we'll try and get him on next series. It's Mark Cockram from All of Time and Space podcast, who says this about the twin dilemma. What's a guaranteed way to completely cock up your new principal actor's debut? Let's plonk it at the end of the season when the budget has disappeared to such an extent that you have to resort to you using props and covering them in bacon foil in the hope that no one will notice. There's no money left for costumes, so let's borrow some tunics for Casualty and try to make them look a bit spacey. A perfect way to introduce this new fellow to the kids at home is to get him to strangle the poor sod who thought she was going on fun adventures with the nice space vet and is now saddled with a psychotic drama queen. Mark concludes by saying, and to leave it at the end of the season with a whether you like it or not, the final straw for anyone still watching who wasn't convinced by the exciting story with the space slug and the chicken. And let's not even start on Womulus and Wemyss.
You see, for me, I'd say that was mixed messaging there. Because all of those descriptions sounded like something I would watch the shit out of.
Yep.
So, yeah.
I think Doctor Who in an exciting adventure with the Space Slug and the Chicken Men is a bona fide. It's bona fide winner.
Special.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. It's a target book that never was.
Yeah. In fact, Russell T Davis is probably sitting at home now. One, obviously writing my names down for libel, and two, crossing out the name of the 2024 Christmas special thing, and that the one was going to have to come up with something else now.
He's obviously paranoid about it for no particular reason. He's just really paranoid about it. Wonder how the information got out.
Yeah. Setting down to write that book, how many lines are going to be the finished novel?
Yeah.
Just to be clear. Just to be clear.
Yeah.
Next up is our friend across the pond, North California, to be precise. It's Julia Wallen who says this. Okay, this was the last Colin Baker story I watched. I know its reputation, and I knew it would get better. Not guilty because Colin Baker never phones it in and remains a great ambassador for the programme. It's not great, but there's enough to keep it.
Yep.
Look at the despair on the prosecution's face. Stacking up, man. Stacking up. Next up, we have a newbie. It's Steve Dillon. Good evening, Steve. Welcome aboard. Steve says this. Hello. Of all the classic episodes, this is the only one I genuinely don't like and don't rewatch. Though I really love Sixie, I can't abide this initial betrayal and can't watch him strangling Perry.
Mm-hmm.
So there you
Okay.
go.
I'm sure we'll come to that.
He says he can't watch
Well, we will.
When did he watch it and how long has it been? He obviously remembers it wrong. I can't rewatch it. Well, your evidence doesn't really count then, mate, I'll be honest.
And he goes discrediting the witnesses already. They've been started properly. Yeah.
Already. The tactics have begun.
When the witness statements are read out is the best time to discredit them.
Yep.
True.
If this was Trump's trial, he wouldn't even make it through the door.
Yeah.
And lastly, in this first half of Viewer Evidence tonight, it's our guest from the frontiness episode this series. It's the one and only Mr. Dave Rennie, who says this. It's a masterpiece. Late April Fool. There are so many what the fuck were they thinking with this moments, but I have a soft spot for it. The first two VHSs I got back in the day were Caves, then this, so I saw the so-called fan wisdom immediately. Is this the worst story? Absolutely no way. But no bloody chance I'd defend it on the Polis box. Good luck, Fraser. He doesn't need luck. Also goes on to say, and Polis, damn the phone corrective text for not being tailored for Scottish.
Yeah.
Quite right.
I also corrected his autocorrect there for saying good luck to me and not Cam tonight.
Aye, true. Notice that. So there we go.
Oh yeah,
So
that's done. Yeah.
I think you're going to need it, Cam, to be honest. That's
Probably.
not cut and dried.
No,
That's
mate.
not cut and dried.
No,
Right then.
not at all.
Everyone's
Let's get...
expecting it to be like to lose because it's meant to be the worst story. But if you actually watch it, it's not that bad. So yeah, good luck to Cam.
Yep.
Okay then, let's see how it pans out. Let's get into the trial itself proper. As always, the guests go first. So Fraser, do you want to give us your first point for the defence of the twin dilemma, please?
I mean, my first point is really a bit of a procedural one, if I'm being honest, because I don't have to do anything tonight.
Yeah.
You know, you've put this episode on trial, and everyone knows the overriding principle of justice in this country is innocent until proven guilty. So, Dave, me and you can just sit back and relax because Cam's got to do all the work tonight.
Yeah. He's got to prove that it's guilty of crimes, and that's a big job.
And that's a point. Crimes against Doctor Who. What does crimes against Doctor Who actually mean?
Ah, you see.
He's picking holes in the format. Who invited this guy on? Get out of our courtroom.
Well, we've already started with the viewer evidence. We've had to discard some because, you know, we need to make sure that this episode gets a fair trial. People are coming in with preconceived ideas that this is terrible. I mean, how many people have actually watched this recently? I know I have. I'm assuming you three have as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like 2 days
Out
ago.
there, we'll chuck it out to some comments, but how many people have actually watched this within the last, 6 months? Or not actually just thinking that this is shit, it's a terrible story, it's the worst one ever. just off the back of what they remember from an episode of UK Gold back in 1996.
Or even worse, they've not even seen it and they're just jumping on the bandwagon of people that hate it because it's the worst ever.
Well, exactly. It's just received fan wisdom. That's what we're kind of battling against tonight, more than anything, is this received fan wisdom that this is the worst story ever. But I'll be fair, I won't just sit here and do nothing. You have very kindly invited us on this evening, and I've got dressed up for the occasion. So I will, make a few points in defense of the twin dilemma. And what I think I'll do is I'll go with Mark Cockram, and I'll kind of build on his idea a little bit, because he says, in his prosecution viewer evidence, that sticking this story at the end of the season is a bad idea. But I think it's actually a point for the defense, because without this episode coming last in the season, you don't get the Caves of Androzani.
Yep.
Okay. So the reason why this comes at the end of the season is because GNT lost his Dalek story at the end of season 20. That was all planned. It was all ready to go. There was production errors, industrial action, all the rest of it. And so that fell through. So rather than running the risk of that happening with Peter Davison's last story, he decided to make that second last and have the Colin Baker's first story the last one, because if he lost that, he could make up for it next season. You could have the first story of season 22 as the opening story, whereas if he lost the last Peter Davison story, then he's in a whole world of trouble. So this story fills a very particular gap, and it is the end of season stinker, which you get with JNT, unfortunately, in the Davison run. This is basically the time flight to Earthshock. This is the King's Demons to Enlightenment. We have this one. So basically, Twin Dilemma takes one for the team, gives all its budget, all its skill to the excellent Caves of Androzani, and takes one for the team and allows Peter Davison to go out on a real high.
Yep.
Okay. I don't like the case of the defence initially. It's terrible. So that seems to be what I'm getting from this so far.
It's as everyone else has said, it's not the best. I'm not going to come on here and say this is the best story ever, but it's certainly not guilty of crimes against Doctor Who, whatever that vague charge is. There's a lot going for this story. It has got a good story. It's got really good performances. We're going to come onto this later on. So there is a lot going for it. So it's not the shittest story ever, but it's not Caves of Androzani, is it? It's not. No one's ever going to be able to convince anyone that this is, the greatest Doctor Who story ever made. And I'm not even going to try that. This is just not as shit as everyone says.
Yep.
And it fills, like I say, it fills that little gap at the end perfectly, so that we can have one of the greatest Doctor Who stories ever, and send Davo out on high.
Okay. The incredulous look in the prosecution's face seems to suggest he thinks otherwise. Cam, do you want to come back on that point, Fraser?
I'm just trying to process what I've just heard for the last 5 minutes. And I probably, maybe it's just me, maybe maybe I'm not an intellectual.
Is it the accent? That usually throws a lot of people.
No, it's nothing to do with your accent. No, trust me. You're very much on a similar vein to a friend of mine who's been on this show, Al. So it's easy, nothing to do. Understood you. I'm just trying to process the actual words I've heard. In amongst all that, I've got this is not guilty because it gave Peter Davison a good send-off.
Yep.
When he's not even in this story at all, for obvious reasons. So I'm not quite sure how I'd make that connection between this being great because Peter Davison got a good send-off when it's nothing to do with Peter Davison's send-off because it's Colin Baker all the way.
Would you like this to be Peter Davison's last story, though?
No.
There you go.
So yeah, the way the series was laid out, somebody had to be the Doctor in this. And if they hadn't changed
Yeah.
the Doctor over and done it this way, we
I
would be
wouldn't
the last story.
really like this to be Peter Davison's last one, mainly because it's bollocks. That's
But is
a
it
main
though?
overriding
It's not
thing.
that
And we'll
bad.
talk about this over the next couple of hours. Yeah, I mean, I think as is quite handy with often on the Polish box, when the prosecution bring up one point and the defense bring up another, they kind of go hand in hand and they kind of tie it together. This, I have written here that my first point was this could have been a complete shake-up of Doctor Who. Because we've talked over the last few weeks about how the Davidson era seems to sort of dwindle to, Caves of Arzani is the bang at the end. But up until that point, it's kind of obvious that they're running out of steam. And then you get, Janet Fielding leaves, Mark Strickson leaves, and then finally, the only time that Peter Davison actually feels like he's given a fuck is in Caves of Arzani, and that's part of what, makes it not guilty of crimes against Doctor Who. They could have overhauled the whole thing and given Doctor Who a shot in the arm to carry forward and possibly reverse what was maybe a downward trend that obviously carries on throughout the into the late 80s. But it fails to do so because it concentrates on all the worst aspects of the Davidson run. The bickering between the companions is obviously amplified, and we'll get into that a little bit later. And rather have an actor who doesn't seem to want to be there, Colin Baker plays it as a doctor who doesn't seem to want to be there. It crosses that line being a kind of backstage thing into the forefront of the actual fucking story. There you go.
I mean, they did try and change things up a bit into the next season, didn't they? Going to the 45-minute format. What more would you have wanted, Cam, from this story?
Well, maybe I would say if a 45-minute format maybe would have suited this better because it would have reduced the level of cliffhangers, but we'll get to that in a wee minute as well.
Funnily enough, that's on my list as well.
Is that on your list as well?
Yeah.
Okay, that's good. I look forward to that one. No, I know we can sit and talk about Colin Baker's performance, and we will. And it's on mine too. And I know that they would obviously want it to be a contrast to the sort of quiet, more demure nature that Davison brought to it. So therefore, they've gone pretty much 100 miles in the opposite direction to get Colin Baker's loud, bombastic arse, basically, to be center point of the entire story and the entire series going forward. It presents us with a Doctor which is pretty damn unlikable. And that, for me, is a major sort of fault in the entire run of the show. In fact, you really have to believe that the Doctor, is a likable character. He is someone that the viewer, would like to travel with. This is not a Doctor that any rational thinking person would like to travel with. You get all the Doctors that complain about, being alone. Well, this is the one that fucking should be. Because holy fuck. I hadn't seen Twin Dilemma for many, many a year until I watched it 2 days ago for this. And I had pretty much excised from my mind just how absolutely rancid Colin Baker's Doctor is in this story.
Let me ask you a question then. Did you watch it all in one go?
No, I couldn't. I watched it in two halves.
So did you watch episode 1 and 2, and then the next day you watched 2 and 3?
Yeah,
so
1, 2, then 3, 4.
Yeah. If you watch it as nature intended across a month, what you'll see by the time you get there, or if you just go back and watch part 4, everyone focuses on part 1. That's where all the the strangling and everything comes in. If you watch part 4, and I recommend everyone to go and do this, go and watch part 4 by itself and see how toned down Colin Baker's performance is in part 4. It's virtually on the point of subtle at some points. He has really brung it down. It's almost as if he starts off, he's like, right, how much of an arse am I going to be? Episode 1, 100%. 2, I'll bring it down 75. 3, I'm going to be, 50. By the time I get to 4, I'm, 25%, and then I'll go into the next episode and I'll be, as I want to play the Doctor. So by the time he gets to the end, he is so different than the first start, and he's so different than what we get in the rest of season 22. Season 22 is almost as if, someone's put a pound in him and, wound him up and set him back off for Attack of the Cybermen. He's shouting at people.
I was going to say, it's not a long-term thing. I would buy that if you're telling me that the entire season 22, he was this,
No.
A calm confidence rather than this constant bellowing at everyone that's around him.
It really goes down. It goes down, and he has these scenes with Maurice Denham towards the end, which are beautiful. Actually, Maurice Denham's, Asmiel's death scene where he's talking about the fountain with the Doctor and he's cradling him is, it's not what we're used to in classic Doctor Who in terms of giving a character a really strong emotional send-off. And those two actors really play it really well. Like I say, he has a break, he comes back. I don't know if, JNT's, took him to one side and said, right, remember what I said about Arc of Infinity when I said, yeah, the opposite, bring it back up. Wanting you to be loud again. It's
bring the chicken if you want.
Yeah.
Yeah, more chickens.
Yeah, bring Esmeralda. Just, we want you to go again from the start, basically. That was nice over 4 episodes, but want you to do it over 4 series now. So back to 100%, please. In this particular story, though, there is that general decline. I mean, I think if he'd went into Attack of the Cybermen, playing the Doctor as he does in part 4 of this, we wouldn't have an issue. He'd be as respected and loved as he should be.
He didn't really get any sort of scenes like Asmiel's death scene in throughout season 22, as far as I remember. There's not anything that requires him to play that sort of toned down version.
Oh, really?
It's like Fraser says, somebody has definitely put the pound in the Doctor, and it's amped up all the way through the series.
Mm-hmm.
So
can we blame Eric Sherwood? Because that's always fun.
Why not?
Yeah, we will. Well, why not? I'm gonna.
Because we know Sherwood had his problems with Colin Baker. He obviously comes in for this last episode, and then Sherwood gets a whole series to run at him, and Sherwood's not interested in the Doctor now. Now it's Colin Baker. He doesn't want to give him any of those moments. He just wants the Doctor to, turn up, interact with a bunch of characters and save the day at the end. And I don't know, maybe he's throw someone in some acid along the way. So I think that's probably more of an Eric Sherwood issue that, we don't get any more, lovely kind of moments of charm with Colin Baker in 22 that we get in this one.
But that plays into something that we've noticed running through this whole series, is that this is Doctor Who being made by people who now don't give a fuck about Doctor Who. And it starts to seep throughout the entire production. It's almost radiating off the screen by the time this comes round.
I don't think it's people that don't give a fuck about it. I think it's two people who can't work together. I've always thought it's you've got JNT, who is light entertainment producer, and you've got Eric Sherwood, who is basically in a job 2 years too early for EastEnders.
Yeah.
So, Eric Sherwood's wanting to, write gritty, sci-fi with people getting shot and, people get thrown out the Queen Vic every week and whatnot. And GNT basically wants to do Noel's House Party, and the two of them just can't work together in that respect. Yeah. You look at Hinchcliffe and Holmes, they knew what they were doing and they were both on the same page. Even more so, Letts and Dix, who are just so simpatico that they give us 5 magic years of just consistently great television, family entertainment. You've got two polar opposites here who just, it's oil and water and they just can't get it together. So
Sherwood wants to do Blake 7, really, doesn't he?
Yeah.
Just within the confines of Doctor Who. That's what he's writing most of the time.
Yeah, very much so. Whereas, GNT is probably the one that's actually got his eye on, the kids, eye on the audience, eye on the figures and whatnot. Sherwood just wants to shoot people and blow shit up.
Which he does many times, as we've seen.
Successfully, yes.
The Doctor standing on a pile of bodies at the end of Warriors of the Deep is probably the main pinnacle of this right now.
There should have
certainly
been
doesn't
another
feel
way.
it.
Yes, Eric, there should have been. You should have
Yes,
written
there
it.
probably
Thank you.
fucking should have been another way. Yes, we discussed this when we did Warriors of the Deep. Holy
Check off
shit.
bloody
I
gas.
think the
honestly.
line in this that sums that point of view up is at the end, where the Doctor says they're already mopping up, and you can hear the gunshots in the distance. They're like, you hear that? That's genocide. They're getting on well, lads. It's like that.
Yeah.
Why is that a good thing? It's like they're mopping up us. Are they shooting the injured or just prisoners or what? Like, it's very dark and it's just thrown away in there.
Maybe they just have noisy electronic mops
Maybe.
that make a sort of banging sound when you know,
An
there's,
entire
some
base full
slug
of faulty Rumbas.
there's some slug goo. We're gonna have to shoot it to break it up. It's like concrete, and yeah.
Is it me? Look, just while we mention the slug goo, by the way, is it me or is there an entire scene where one character gets stuck in the slug goo, but he's got boots on, and you're just like, take off your fucking boots, man.
Oh yeah, Perry even mentions shame about your boots.
Yep.
Like,
Yeah,
take
just
them off. Leave
just
them there.
if you're stuck in your boots, man, just take off your fucking boots, man. It'll be fine. Just take off your boots. But no. Sorry, I just thought I'd throw that in there.
Yeah.
That was the most ridiculous fucking bit as far as that guy was concerned for me.
That point for the prosecution was brought to you by Clark's.
Yes.
Surely it was brought to you by Skechers slip-ons.
What's the Colin Baker story? Why not Crocs?
Doctor Who?
Oof.
No,
It was-
Doc Martens.
That
Surely all
Martin
the
Woods
slug-
was a couple of seasons ago.
The slug goo would seep in all the holes of the croc, surely.
Yeah, no, I've not thought it through. It's almost like it was a flippant joke I just chucked in out of nowhere with no real basis in thought.
I mean,
That
you
we
know,
all picked up on and decided to pick the bit, yeah.
Yeah,
Slug-
it's generally how it works.
I'm just trying to work in a joke here so that slug goo in your holes can be the title of the episode.
While that point was going on, we've had a comment in from our viewers. Cyhart, I don't know which point he's referring to, but it just says typical Frazer.
Yeah, doesn't narrow it down. You're going to have to be a bit more specific,
Yeah.
I'm afraid.
We're going to need details, mate. Also in touch has been Gabby to say once the Jaconda situation presents, the Doctor seems to focus and starts to become more himself.
Yeah.
So that's kind of played into what
But-
we were suggesting about him toning it down in part 4. So
Not for too long, as we've established as well.
yeah, there is that. Okay then. How about we go to the first point for the prosecution of the twin dilemma then? Cam, do you want to give us one from your list?
Okay, well, the first one I've used already, obviously, because it tied in with the defense. So let's go for the second one, and it's a biggie, and we're going to talk about it eventually. The strangling scene. Deeply, deeply uncomfortable. I would imagine even at the time, even more so now. Horrifically misogynist, and possibly the worst treatment a companion has ever had, and seemingly shoved to one side afterwards and never really referred to again in any great everlasting context. She does mention, you tried to kill me a couple of times, but it's never really, by the end of the episode, she's smiling. By the end of episode 2, she's cursing the fact that he might have died in an explosion, being that this man was trying to kill you. It falls in line with the usual thing of why the hell would Perry even be there if that's the sort of stuff that's going to happen. No person in the right mind would want to be traveling around with someone who legitimately could fucking kill them at any point in time. It's just, I know, I just feel it's probably like, of all the regeneration episodes and all like the first episodes of a Doctor's run, it's probably the worst treatment a companion has ever had. And I can't see what it was supposed to have, what effect it was supposed to have on the story going forward, what it's supposed to suggest. If you're going to suggest he's manic, then there's other ways of doing that without resorting to that. If it's going to suggest, it's unpredictable, fine. You've already really demonstrated that by his demeanor. You don't need to go to the lengths of, oh yeah, he nearly kills his companion.
It wasn't nearly killed. Come on now. She didn't even lose consciousness. It's
Oh, that's okay then.
Yeah.
That's all right.
That's all right then.
It's fine, we can move on from it now.
I mean,
We can all move on from assaulting a woman.
It's the worst treatment our companions had. He shot Chameleon not long ago. And you can say that was
Does
assisted
Chameleon
suicide.
count,
He still
though?
pulled the trigger.
Does Chameleon count?
He's
You have to be
sentient.
kind of reminded he was actually on the TARDIS to begin with in Planet of Fire.
He's a sentient life form.
Doesn't count.
Yes, it's still-
So, yeah.
I mean, Tom Baker puts Sarah Jane through the trials of Sarah Jane, but that's not him actually doing that, is it? It's not him. You know, she goes through the ringer. But ultimately, you know, we can't defend this. We can't say, you know, strangling Perry is any way acceptable. Points to raise, though, is, you know, obviously this was a bit more acceptable in the time because they showed this clip on Blue Peter. This is this clip that they used, you know, we'll get everyone onto Blue Peter. Oh, yeah, you're a new doctor coming on. Yeah, he has the clip. He has what you're going to see. So, yeah. Oh, look, so I think, you know, we have moved on as a society a great deal in the last 40 odd years. So we are in a better position to call this out and say, yes, this is, you know, not acceptable. But I think, you know, if you apply a bit of sort of relativism to it, then back in the day, it was probably not seen that way. In terms of what does it do for the story? Well, it is the driving point of the story, actually, because, you know, it's what gets the Doctor to his craggy knob and then moves things forward. You know, it's, you know, if it was a case of the Doctor tried to strangle Perry and he just brushed it off and thought, no, that's fine, I can, you know, strangle who I want, then we might have more of an issue. But ultimately, the Doctor recognizes what's happening. You recognize, well, yeah, I did actually, you know, try and kill my companion, and it's a big moment of guilt and grief for him, which then spurs him to go to his craggy knob, and then where he finds the twins and Asmiel, and that's, you know, it's the kickstart. It's not quite a MacGuffin, but it is the thing that drives the plot forward from that point. In terms of, you know, what's it trying to do, you know, a bit more holistically, it is obviously setting up this idea that, you know, the Doctor is manic. You know, this is not the person that we saw last week. You know, the person that we saw last week was the guy that gave his life to save his friend. Now he's trying to strangle us. So we have got that massive contrast between the lovable vet and, you know, Colin Baker now. And I think that's what that particular point there is to do, is to prove just how different this Doctor is now and how, you know, things have changed so much. Again, if we were ending up in part 4 with the Doctor still acting that way, it would be more of an issue. But I can see what they're trying to do. Remember, this story comes out a year after Superman 3. And if you remember Superman 3, the B plot is where, or, you know, it's the one with Richard Pryor where he makes kryptonite out of Baki.
Yep.
And it turns Superman evil.
Yep.
Yeah. So we've got the Doctor as our superhero, and we are telling basically there's only 3 real superhero stories you can tell, which is the origin, the superhero loses their powers, and the superhero goes evil.
Yep.
It's, you know, it's Sam Raimi's Spider-Man trilogy. So that's what we're kind of seeing here. The superhero has gone bad. He's gone evil. He's tried to kill his companion, but it's a point at the start of the episode. So there is some sort of mitigation and some justification for it. Ultimately, it is unacceptable. Don't get us wrong. I'm not trying to say anything otherwise. But I think the other thing we need to consider is who's actually responsible for this. You know, who put that in?
Yeah.
Back you think of one name.
Does it rhyme with Beric Baywood?
It does, surprisingly, yes, it does. Who knew?
Yeah, what a surprise! Because ultimately, you know, if you believe what's on TARDIS Wiki, then, you know, GNT wanted this to be a very straightforward story. You just wanted it to be, you know, the Doctor comes in, it's a new Doctor, and yeah, everyone loves him. It was Sherwood who then says, no, let's do something different. So talking about shaking things up a bit, this is his idea of shaking it up, is we'll have the Doctor massively unhinged, attack his companion. Oh, won't that be a jolly jape? And crack on. And no, Eric, it isn't. It's not acceptable. We can sit here and say, no, that isn't acceptable. But obviously, behind the scenes, they thought it was. So, if anything, is this a point of prosecution for the twin dilemma, or is it a point of prosecution for Eric Sherwood? I would say it's Eric Sherwood.
Also, you have to look from the actor's point of view, because for Colin Baker, this is his first story, so he's not got any power to stand up and say, no, the Doctor wouldn't do this, because he's not been playing the Doctor for long enough.
Yeah.
Nicola Bryant is now the lead senior actor on this, and she's still
by two stories.
Yeah, she's still a relatively young woman. She's not going to be able to stand up to these BBC television producers going, no, the Doctor wouldn't do that, because again, it's not that Doctor anymore. So none of them really had the power to stand up, which is kind of like Perry in this scene. They don't have the power to stand up and say, no, this is wrong. They just have to do what Seymour tells them.
Yep.
You can't blame the actors for it.
I'm not blaming the actors for it, but I'm blaming it as part of the actual story. It doesn't really... We can sit and talk about who greenlit what and who agreed to what and who couldn't stand up to what. It was still part of the story that was broadcast and part of what we're looking at tonight. And it's still absolutely squirm-inducing to watch, and it does make me think. It makes me think what the they were on to actually think that was going to be an acceptable thing to broadcast as part of Doctor Who. I mean, I can't imagine any other regeneration story where you could have something else like that happen. You know what I mean? If I'm trying to think of an example here, and just changing it. If Tom Baker slapped Sarah Jane in Robot or something like that across the face, it'd be like, it just wouldn't. At no point does it fit into Doctor Who. At no point does that kind of action of the hero of your story actually feel justified. And I know you're saying it's trying to show that he's unhinged. It's a man who's been cowering in a wardrobe for a few minutes beforehand. You know what I mean?
Yeah, so but have you seen the quotes in that wardrobe, though?
Well, yeah, exactly. Yeah. I think it's more worrying what I forget the character's name. The space captain guy, when he goes looking for another bit of jacket. It's more worrying what he brings up.
Hugo Lang. Yeah.
Yep.
Hugo, that's the one. I think it's more worrying what he brings up. Yeah, that's just like, of all the things just to steal. God, it's like done up like a turkey.
That'd even be a bit much in RuPaul's Drag
Not enough
Race.
colour, not enough colour, not enough colour. Bingo.
Yeah, it's like, this shimmering thing. But no, as I say,
in this.
It's just possibly the lowest point of any regeneration story is this. Twin Dilemma contains the lowest possible part of any regeneration story in the attack on Perry.
Possibly.
I'll put that forward.
I mean, I think the worst moment in Doctor Who ever for me is in Which Is Familiar, when the Doctor throws Davros out of his chair so he can go riding around in it for shits and giggles. That's not a regeneration story, so I will cede this point, you can. That I think you're probably right. It is utterly unacceptable. Like I say, I can see the justification, I can see the reasons why it's happening, but I can't put my hand on my heart and say, no, we can defend that.
Yeah. On that point, Cy Hart's been in touch to say it's the single most misjudged thing in the whole of the show. Why make your Doctor that unlikable? Why would anyone keep watching? Of course I did, but I'm not driving the trial.
Yep.
But it does happen throughout the rest of the story as well. Like, does attack Asmiel in the last episode. I mean, instantly it's like, what am I doing? But
he jumps over a chair to get his hands around Asmiel's neck, but obviously Asmiel is not the one that follows with him. And just to go back to another point that you made in there, Cam, was, why would Perry follow the Doctor around? I think Big Finish have answered that one very well in their latest release, The Quinn Dilemma. I listened to the To Watch Who podcast on Trial of a Time Lord last week, and they had a clip from one of the stories in there where Perry basically explains, after I did all that to you, why didn't you just walk out the door and never come back? And she said, well, you're my friend and you were unwell.
Yep.
and I could see you weren't well, and I could see you were broken, and I didn't know how to put you together, but I wanted to try because you're my friend. So, Big Finish have ultimately undone that little bit of it, but I just thought I'd throw that in there. But like I say, not acceptable.
If we're going to talk about being unwell, it's a hellish portrayal of bipolar. Don't hang around with bipolar folk. They might attack you at any minute. Essentially is what this is saying.
Yeah.
It's hardly sympathetic. If we're going to go down the, he was mentally ill angle, it's not much better.
Yeah. Again, possibly a sign of the times. We've come a long way since.
Possible, yes, and possibly we're looking at it with 2024 vision onto 1984. So we're looking at nearly 40 years. Bang on 40 years. So maybe that's part of it, but still, I would like to think the 80s were not that fast and loose. Jesus.
I'd say it's maybe not bipolar, and it's more PTSD from the change.
Quite possibly, yeah.
Yeah.
But has that happened before to that level?
But the regeneration
has it happened
always
since
changed.
To that level?
To that level, not necessarily. I mean, Capaldi was asleep after his regeneration. Matt Smith just got a bit snacky. So it's...
Yeah. Matt Smith got hungry.
Yeah.
David Tennant was in bed for half a Christmas special.
Yep.
3/4.
Yeah, pretty much. What else do we have?
Capaldi slept. Jodie fell out
McCoy
the sky.
Jodie fell out the sky. McCoy had kind of amnesia. Yeah, I'd say so.
So yeah. Affects them all differently.
All of those, affects them all differently, but none of them were to this level of just general awfulness.
I mean, Tom Baker did lock Harry Sullivan in a cupboard upside down.
Yeah, the bastard.
Only because he was trying to get out of a medical.
Is that how you treat NHS staff, Cam?
Can I point out that we have a supporting comment from the YouTube viewers?
I have just noticed that pop up, so I will put that up on screen right this very second. Gibby says, the poisoning is the bit that affects the Doctor, which others never faced in regeneration. So going back to the previous story with the Spectrox poisoning.
Radiation poisoning?
Well, poisoning.
Yeah, well, radiation,
so
Spectrox.
Poisoning has been the cause of it. This isn't the only poisoning that the Doctor's ever had to regenerate.
Well, you don't know that Pertwee didn't get that out of his system in that 3 weeks he's round the TARDIS. He could be going around visiting all sorts of people, kicking them up the arse and knocking them off bikes and
drowning puppies.
Yeah, spitting into cups of tea. Nicking money out of kids' birthday cards. He could be doing all sorts in that time.
Yeah. He's got his hand on a few charity boxes before he turns up and spears from space, isn't he?
Yeah.
Definitely. Okay, before we cast any more aspersions on the character of the Third Doctor, shall we go to the next point for the defence? Dave, what have you got?
So after what you just said, let's talk about the Doctor and his character. Because everyone says Androzani is the best Davison story because he finally gets to portray the Doctor how he wants. You're coming in as the Doctor, you're the new person in the role, and they say to you, normally, regeneration, end of series, for you, you're going to get a story before it finishes. So you've got these 4 episodes to nail the character of the Doctor, and you have to finish it on how you want to portray him. But you have to make it completely different to the one beforehand. So all he's got in these 4 stories is to become the Doctor. Normally, you've got like the first half of a season before people go, yeah, he's growing into the role now. He had an hour and a half on screen to become the Doctor. So he's got to come in, he's got to be different. The last Doctor, a bit feckless, a bit weak. Fine, he got a bit cheeky towards the end, but he has to be different to that. So he goes and ramps it up. He's loud, he's obnoxious, he owns the room, he doesn't do anything in half measures, and that's how he starts off. It's a nice change to an extent. Admittedly, the strangling of the companion is a bad thing. I'm not defending that at all. But portraying the Doctor in a very different way to the last Doctor is almost what they all start doing. So he has to come in different. But by the end of the story, he has toned it down. He's only had 4 episodes to make the role his own. And he's working with a crew that have been working with the previous incarnation the whole way through. So you're coming in at like half an hour of closing time, last one on stage, trying to get the crowd to laugh. And you can't do that unless you really go at it. Everyone knows that 6 weeks we'll be on holidays, lads. Or we'll be off doing a different shoot. So he's got to really go for it, and he does. Admittedly, he is the only one that really goes for it a lot of the time, which makes other actors look bad. The twins are shite, I'll give you that. But the Doctor in this has to come in, and he has to come in strong, and I think he does that. By the end of it, you go, yeah, all right, he's the Doctor now, and you kind of accept that, which is quite an impressive thing to do in only 4 episodes.
Okay. Prosecution, you want to come back on that?
So we're saying that he does really well to ascertain a character in 4 episodes. Is that what you're saying?
To become the character that somebody else has been for the last 3 years within 4 episodes of short television with a very small budget is well done.
Nope. Okay,
Well,
we'll get Fraser.
Fraser's away.
His internet
Intriguing.
connection's been strangled.
Yes. But it'll
Okay,
always
come
fine.
on.
He'll be smiling about it afterwards, and everyone will be happy.
Yeah, most new
As I've
actors
alluded
come in
to
to play the Doctor don't get long. Or like they get an episode to become the Doctor, and then they get their first proper story. He has to come in, do his first proper story, and become the Doctor.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Again, though, it's too jarring. It's too much in the opposite direction from what's come before. I always get the feeling, yeah, but it's again, it's a production thing, but it's what we've got on screen that we have to comment on. We can argue about whose decision it was once again on every single point, but this is what ended up on screen. It is, and I as I said earlier, I get what they were trying to do. I get they wanted to move away from the more meek version of the Doctor that the 5th was, but it ends up being so overbearing that it begins to doubt. You begin to doubt everything about the show going forward, and doing that kind of side of things. It's possibly a misstep. We obviously know from retrospect that it didn't work because they're within a few years they're essentially kicking Colin Baker out the window and getting McCoy in, to the point where obviously Colin Baker won't turn up to his regeneration scene. So that's the thing I would say about it. Yes, he puts a stamp on the character, but it's a completely misguided one. It's a completely wrong-footed one. And perhaps had we reversed that, perhaps the Doctor from episode 4 had been there in episode 1 and perhaps this whole story and saved the manic bits for the next season, maybe it would have had a bit more success and a bit more bedding in. But as it stands, it's far, far too jarring. It's like drinking a cup of orange juice after you brush your teeth. It's brilliant.
I'm going to agree with Dave on this one. I think, Colin
That's a shock.
Yeah.
It's almost like it's his job.
Yeah.
Colin
Like
Baker, he comes in and he gives us a Doctor. He is probably hired to be the opposite of Peter Davison. JNT brought Davison in to be a bit of an opposite of the other Baker, Tom Baker, who was loud and gung-ho and filled the room with his presence. And Davison comes in and is a lot more sort of naturalistic. He has the sort of breathless energy, so you can see production team going, well, we want to change that. We don't want just to have the same not going to swap like for like, as they kind of did with Hartnell and Troughton, where you can say, well, we're getting someone that's maybe a bit more the same, or, you know, Troughton into Pertwee, where they'd hired like a comedy actor to play that role. They are definitely going for that contrast, which I think we've mentioned a couple of times now. So, you know, Colin Baker has to come in and give us his Doctor. Like you say, he's got to give us this character who's then going to have a few months break before they come back for the next season. So he's got to make an impact, and he does. He does make an impact. Now, you read out the viewing figures at the start of the episode there, Lee, and I believe, you know, we do see that sort of downward, you know, trend across the story where we're starting off.
Episode, it's down all the way.
Yeah, what did we start off with? We started with
7.6 million part 1, 7.4 part 2, 7 part 3, 6.3 part 4.
Okay, so let's assume then that Colin Baker's come in and no one likes his Doctor. What are the viewing figures for Attack of the Cybermen part 1? Top of your head, what's it going to be?
I think I know roughly, but I'll let the other guys go first.
7.4.
Yep.
Well, Dave got it. 7.4.
7.4 for Dave. 8.9.
Almost
8.9 million people come back for the Attack of the Cybermen. So, if you're going to say to me, well, Colin Baker put people off Doctor Who, I'm going to say, you know, 3.3 million people, or 3.6 more million people. No, that's not right. 2.6 million more people came back at the start of the next series to watch them again.
Yep.
Do we have the viewing figures for Attack of the Cybermen part 2?
7.2 million. So
7.2.
again, you see that massive dip from Attack of the Cybermen part 1 to part 2. You then go into Varos, which maintains the 7.2 and then drops to 7. Mark of the Rod, he starts at 6.3 and actually picks up to 7.3. But you can see there's a definite sort of like new series, new Doctor boost in season 22 that then start to tails off the you know, the two Doctors gets into the 6s. Time Lash does a little bit better before we have another sort of 7.4-ish resurgent with Revelation of the Daleks. You know, so going again, you know, you look and you think, well, you know, people obviously weren't put off because they've come back to watch them. So it's really probably more season 22 that is doing the damage to this character than this particular episode.
Not enough, as we know, obviously, from retrospect, to save the show, though.
No, I think ultimately, if you look, you know, the show gets cancelled around the time of the two Doctors going out or being produced. So ultimately the writing was always on the wall. I don't think this show would have done anything. I think the writing's probably on the wall ever since, you know, Michael Grade looked at the Mercury and went, "That's a fucking pantomime horse." You know,
so it's a bit. We could say it's arranging the deck chairs on the Titanic.
We could, but you know, as long as we're not saying the deck chairs on the Titanic is what sunk them.
Yeah,
sunk the boat.
It's probably a bloody big iceberg they hit, to be fair.
Yeah, I'd probably say that.
Just let a guess. I'm no nautical expert, but I'm suggesting
they will do that if you run into them. Yes. I mean, obviously, I've got Colin Baker down as one of my points for the defence here because he is exceptionally good in this story. Like I say, he starts off as arsehole as you like, brings it right down, has that wonderful, beautiful scene at the end. He does everything in between. He is not just in your face with his difference between him and Davison. It's in everything. It's in his body language. It's in his movement. It's where he's kind of like, you know, position himself sitting cross-legged or lying across a desk with his palm up, or when he's jumping over settees. You know, the lovely, I love that thing he does with his cat badge when he needs a bit of luck and he rubs the badge on his lapel. He's given us so much, you know, not just shouty man. He is actually, you know, if you wanted a shouty man, you get Brian Blessed in. He's actually given us a really...
And they did.
They did. Yes. We'll marry Perry off to that shouty man.
Yes. At least it's a shouty man that doesn't want to strangle her, yeah.
He just wants to shoot her with his laser. That is true.
Yes. But that euphemism? Maybe, I don't know.
It's fine. You need a picture of a dog first. It's okay. It's fine.
Yeah.
So, Colin Baker's a definite bonus, definite plus for this story for me.
Yeah, I think there's quite
I
few
can't
people who would agree with you there.
I can't go. I mean, regular listeners and watchers of the Polish Box will know my Big Finish entry a couple of years ago for the short trips was based on the Sixth Doctor, and from that experience, I can't deny he's fucking fun to write. It's because you can basically just have him bluster into situations and just tell folk that they're fucking idiots and then just carry on. So from that point of view, he's brilliant fun to write. Probably more so than some of the other Doctors. But again, as we've said today, and I'll say it again, it's too much. It's too much.
Okay, then. On the point of Colin, Cyhart's been back in touch to say, if nothing else, Colin gives this story everything. It's an energetic and interesting performance and surprisingly physical. Yeah,
Yep.
Certainly is in places, that's for sure. So there we go. That's the viewer comments for that one. Right, we are just about to come up to our halftime break. So when we come back, we will carry on the trial of the twin dilemma. But now, before we go for that break, it's the moment you've all been waiting for. At the top of tonight's show, we promised you a world exclusive, and now it's time to reveal it. So, from the pen of regular Polish Box contributor Daniel Ronsley, seeing us into the halftime break, we present you with an unrivaled epic. But before we debut it, let's take you back to November last year for a little context on how this masterpiece was born. We'll see you on the other side of the break. While we're on subject of messages being sent to us, we've had another couple during the break, and I think this is one for you, Cam, given that you are Southern Scotland's answer to Ice-T. It's a time to resurrect your rap career.
Oh.
So if you want to give this a little go, this is from Daniel Ronsley, and he says...
All right.
Give it a go, on you go.
Now, this is a story all about how my life got turned upside down. I'd like to take a minute or a couple of hours and give a caretaker at Paradise Towers.
Yes!
Nice.
Oh, you're so street. You're so gangster. So gangster.
I am total gangster. Shizzle for shizzle.
Just as a
in the hood like a G.
Yep.
Of course, we should point out that was music and lyrics by Richard Briers.
Of course, yes.
Of course.
Somewhere there's an AI that's going to do that.
I was only ever trying to teach you good habits, Ace. Doctor, it's Mel. Oh, sorry. Mel. Obviously, I failed. Doctor, do you hear that? Yes, it's all around us, like a harmonic resonance, crossing the boundaries of one sound barrier to another. Kind of catchy. Doctor? Ahem. Now this is a story all about how my life got turned upside down. So I'd like to take a minute, just sit right there. Doctor, isn't that from the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air? Keep your voice down. We don't want Will Smith's copyright lawyers after us. Will Smith? Oh, a man of many faces, fearsome talents. I don't understand. Shh. Now, pay attention, Mel. In Casterbarus Galaxy, born and raised In the cloisters is where I spend most of my days, messing about wraithing and getting so bored while everyone said he'll never make a Time Lord. But with time and space, there's just so much to see, far beyond the reaches of this galaxy. Stole a Type 40 TARDIS and ran away, and that's how I became the Fresh Prince of Galaxy. I beg your pardon? What? Keep my song out of your fucking mouth. Well, really, there's no need for that. Keep my song out of your fucking mouth. Let a true professional show you how it's done. Ahem. From the top. Chief Caretaker, incoming. Now, this is a story all about how my life got flipped, turned upside down, so I'd like to take a minute or a couple of hours and tell you how I became caretaker of Paradise Towers.
Doctor, he's insane.
Yes, utterly mad. I'm not quite sure if that's rapping or acting. Ahem.
Doctor,
Shush. In Elswell House, born and raised. In the basements where I spent most of my days. Chilling out, cleaning, taking the bodies of the dead and bringing them down so Daddy's creature can be fed. When a couple of war scrollers up to no good started making trouble in my neighbourhood. I said, attention, caretakers, get out of the shower. Here comes the architect of Paradise Towers.
And we're back. We're all back now. Hello. Don't know what happened to Fraser disappeared off screen, but here we are. Ivor Novello in the post to Daniel Ronsley, I think.
Absolutely.
Quite the
That was absolutely pitch perfect. I love that.
Not entirely sure about the Scottish accent, though. Bit offensive, if I'm being honest.
Well, we can see.
Yeah.
I'll forgive him.
Okay, then. We are back for the second half of the trial of the twin dilemma. So without any further ado, let's get to the second half of this.
This is the law, chapter 1.
Right then, the second half of your dividends for tonight. So let's go to a newbie straight off the bat is Beeble Brooks. Good evening, Beeble Brooks.
Nice. Hello there.
Hello. Beeble Brooks says, since my first worrisome watch in the mid-80s, I've come to adore the twin dilemma. Maybe that's nostalgia, but I'll take it. The strangest thing amidst all the oddities comes at the very end. The Sixth Doctor is inexplicably unnerving when he gives a toothy smile. It's usually the last thing a chocolate eclair sees.
What?
Next up, Gareth Bowley. Good evening, Gareth. Gareth says, not guilty. A bold, new and fresh start. It tried something new for the Doctor. The Gioconda story is pretty good too. Let's just not mention the twins or what the dilemma was.
Yep. Not guilty. We'll take that.
Absolutely. Yep.
It's
tuned out after that then.
It's got a point though. You never actually find out what the dilemma actually really is, do you?
I think it's the twins' dilemma of whether they should help seed the universe with slug seeds. Oh, yeah.
Hey, we've all had that. We've all had that moral quandary, haven't we?
Yep.
We've all asked ourselves that question. Next up, another newbie, Mark Sturton. Good evening, Mark. Welcome aboard. Mark says this about the twin dilemma: almost everything in the twin dilemma is bad. Screenplay, costumes, acting, direction, even the props suck more than usual. The one element that shines brightly, Colin Baker giving it his all, and they all have at least 3 other actors.
Yep. That's definitely a not guilty because Colin Baker gives it his all. We'll take that as well.
This is all stacking up against the prosecution again here. I mean, there's surely got to be a dissenting voice in here. Let's find out what Russ. Yeah, let's hope so. Let's find out what Rassilon Trousers has to say about the Twin Dilemma.
Yes,
He
please.
says this: there are some Doctor Who stories that are so relentlessly shit you can actually start to weirdly enjoy them. The Twin Dilemma, however, is just relentlessly shit.
At least he's enjoying it.
Yeah.
We'll take that.
Yeah. Yin and yang, 50-50. He's giving with one hand, taking with the other. Okay, next up is Andrew Blair. Andrew says that I think fundamentally if it was just a script rewritten in a rush when all the money had gone at the end of the series, people would understand its flaws and enjoy the camp value. But it's not just that. It's got the Doctor strangling Perry, and that is unforgivable.
And we agree that is unforgivable. We didn't defend that at all. So if you take that point out because we agree with that point, that's yet another one for the defense. Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Understand the flaws, enjoy the camp value, and ignore the stuff that's unforgivable that we agree is unforgivable. Another point for the defense.
One final point. Let's see if this one gets away from Cam as well. It's from Charlie Barnes, who says this. Mark Gatiss put it best. These are the same sets of 25 minutes once occupied by pyramids of Mars. How could they get it so wrong?
I mean, Charlie Barnes, there's nothing wrong with the pyramids of Mars. I don't know where you're coming from with that.
Yeah.
It's a very strange take, that one.
Yeah.
Hey, this is a home of strange takes. It's what we built our reputation on.
But also, can I point out that that is the same Mark Gatiss that named a character in League of Gentlemen, Mr. Chinnery. He took a name from this into League of Gentlemen. So
that's the next point for the defence. It's influential, is it?
Yes.
It's influential, right? Okay.
Yeah, actually, it is.
Yeah, there you go. The evidence is right there in front of us. We can't argue with that. Comments have come in while we've been on the break. Cy Hart has been back in touch to say Malcolm Clark's farting music really doesn't help the story at all. Do you know what? I'm supposed to be impartial, but I agree. It's a honking, literally, in both the senses of the word score.
We'll have better scores from Malcolm Clark, but we will have worse.
Okay, then let's crack on with the trial. Let's go round again. So, Fraser, let's have another point for the defence of the Twin Dilemma, please.
I wasn't kidding when I said that. This is actually quite an influential story when you stop and think about it. This story gives us basically Series 8 of Doctor Who. They take this idea of let's have a dickhead doctor and give it to Peter Capaldi, and rather than, four episodes, they give it a whole series. And he's probably still a dickhead halfway through into series 9, to be honest. So obviously Stephen Moffat's been paying attention to this one. I think RTD's obviously been paying attention as well. We've got anthropomorphic animals and space police. So there's your Jejune straight away. The Absorbaloff. Has he nicked that idea from Mestor? Is Mestor characterization of someone that was behind the scenes? If you know what I mean.
Yep.
Naming no names.
Naming no names.
The Absorbaloff wasn't even his idea, though. It was some kid's.
Yes.
But he decided to commission it.
Yes.
Maybe knowing that I would do well because of how good this story is.
The Absorbaloff is a John
RTD thing, wasn't it?
character.
Yeah. So I think the reach of this story goes right into the future of Doctor Who. We have Sylvester McCoy. His doctor isn't very nice to Ace at times. Obviously doesn't throttle her, but if you talk about sort of like emotional abuse, then there's a definite sort of emotional abuse going on between the 7th Doctor and Ace. You could argue the same with the 10th Doctor and Martha and Donna. There's elements of the Doctor not being a pleasant character. Certainly the 10th Doctor has got the 6th Doctor's ego as well. So I think this is quite an influential story, actually.
Yep.
Okay, prosecution arguing against that.
He's trying to understand what I've said again.
No, I'm just. I contemplate things. You know, we don't try and talk completely off my hip, you see. So what we're saying here is that some of the stuff in this was done better elsewhere.
Was it done better elsewhere, though?
So can I just check, Cam, you're now standing up for the absorbable off?
No, I said some of the stuff. I didn't name specifically the absorbable off.
Just
Some
checking.
of the stuff. Okay. Right. But as far as this story goes, they were pretty naff.
But people have reused the ideas.
Yeah.
If they were naff, why are they reusing them all these years later?
Might not have been great
So
execution,
essentially,
but they were good ideas. This story
Twin
contained
Dilemma-
kernels of good ideas.
Twin Dilemma is an entire story of prototypes. Unfinished, half-baked, underdeveloped.
It depends really on whether you think that, Moffat taking the idea to an extreme of dragging it out over 1 or 2 series was better than just having it in one self-contained story.
Yep.
I don't think anyone has watched any of those things in the modern series and looked at it and went, "Oh, that's that from Twin Dilemma." That's a bit of a stretch.
He's been an arsehole. Look, he's going to try and throttle Clara in a minute. Watch.
Yeah.
That's probably a big line of people that actually would. I'm looking at you, Joe Ford. But Capaldi's Doctor's definitely an attempt to do Colin Baker's Doctor right, so to speak.
In a modern way.
Yeah. A slow unravelling of the onion, the layers underneath to get to a more likeable Doctor in the end, which they do achieve by the time we get to Series 10. But then Capaldi's been afforded a lot more time and security to actually go ahead with that.
But exactly the same thing happens though, doesn't it? Capaldi isn't liked by the general public and pretty much ends up with his P45.
Yeah, but general public are idiots, aren't they? So
very much
I think it goes back to that Cam said have not wanted to travel with the Doctor. And because they stretched Capaldi's bad guy act out for an entire series, I think that meant that it turned too many people off liking him. And they weren't willing to say, I was wrong. He's actually a good Doctor. And it's the same for this. You see, as you said in part 1, where he's all the angry, choking Perry bit. And that's what people decided he was doing the whole time. But it's not. Because as you said earlier, by the time he gets to part 4, he's a good, likeable Doctor. And I think Capaldi, they used an entire series for the arc they managed to do in 4 episodes in this.
Yep.
Capaldi, I don't think... We're going to go on a tangent here. Fine. Capaldi was never really going to be anything but an angry, sort of stereotypical Scotsman, being as he's played Malcolm Tucker beforehand.
Yes.
And essentially that's it. I imagine they've looked at that and went, he plays Malcolm Tucker, he's a Doctor Who fan, fucking perfect.
Yep.
Let's go. We'll have him just shout at Daleks.
People know him.
I think it was slightly more to Andy Pryor's casting decisions than that.
It's just like, that's what they woke up one morning and went, yeah, that's fine. Just put those 2 things together. It'd be great.
You would think so, but everyone in that first series writes him as Malcolm Tucker.
Yeah, I suppose that did.
With the exception probably of Mark Gatiss, who writes him as Victor Meldrew in Robot of Sherwood.
I thought maybe I'd actually had Victor Meldrew and Robot of Sherwood. I'd pay to see that though, for a one-off.
Live it!
He's waving a bloody sword at me. Margaret!
For the love of sanity, will you get me out of the cell?
To be fair, though, there's something to be said for the way Richard Wilson in An Earthly Child delivers the line, physical injury as plague. There's something to be said for that, to be fair to him.
I mean, it's a man from Greenock who's used to infectious diseases, so second nature, really, isn't it?
Exactly. Oh boy, where were we? Sorry, I've got there's at least a couple of tangents there.
We were just agreeing that somebody watched this and thick of it and went, wait a minute, That makes sense. And that's how we got Capaldi as the Doctor. Yet more influence these twin dilemmas had.
But you would travel with Capaldi's Doctor still, because he's not a psychopath.
Oh, sometimes he is a bit.
No, but not to the level of violence that we've previously discussed.
I mean, he'll leave you on the moon with nothing but some spiders and a bottle of Mr. Muscle.
At least you get the bottle of Mr. Muscle.
Yeah. Turn your lights on. Turn your lights off.
Have a quick vote.
Paddy McGuinness was there too.
Have a quick vote for this abortion analogy. Anyway.
Yeah. Okay.
That was a 2.5, wasn't
it? Anything further to add on that point for the defence?
I think that's enough. We've squeezed everything we can out of that.
I don't believe it!
I've even squeezed the pips out. And it's squeezing the pips out that got John Barrowman in trouble in the first place.
He's squeezing his pips that got
Getting his satsumas out on display.
Oh, his easy peelers.
Okay, let's get out of this rabbit hole. Cam, let's have the next point for the prosecution of the twin dilemma, please.
Can we talk about the cliffhangers, please?
Yes.
It's not going to be a time now. Yeah, should we talk about it? Because I've got them listed here. The cliffhangers mostly seem to just be events brought in at the last possible second, just have some kind of hook there, maybe. So we've got a ship captain who suddenly wakes up to point a gun at the Doctor out of seemingly fucking nowhere. Episode 2, time-related nonsense. Building blows up as Perry now seems to have to care about a man who tried to kill her, as we previously kind of covered. Third one, Doctor has a mood swing simply to make an attempt on Asmiel's life. And then suddenly goes, at the start of episode 4, goes, oh, actually, maybe not. And then the finale, in which the Doctor throws, not so much a cliffhanger, it's the finale, but anyway, end of an episode. The finale, in which the Doctor throws another bottle of something towards Nestor to melt him, despite it being blocked in the first place. So he tries the same thing twice, weirdly. If it doesn't work a first time, just do the same thing again. It'll be fine.
Yeah.
So yeah, the cliffhangers in these are not built up at all. They are literally just stuff that they must have thought of at the last possible second, going, oh yeah, well the credits will be rolling straight after this scene. Oh, fuck. Just have the guy wake up and point a gun at him. Okay, cool. And stuff like that. It just struck me that every clicker on this is not really bedded in that brilliantly. It's just tacked on.
Almost all of the cliffhangers are, though. If you build
in
up
this,
to,
yes.
But in all of Doctor Who, because you always know the Doctor's going to be fine next week. So
yeah, but I'm not saying it's not. They're still cliffhangers, but they're not like in any way set up at all. I say that first one with the guy just, he's effectively dead on his feet on the on the floor, and then 2 seconds later he just suddenly goes, "What? Oh, you! I'll point a gun at you," and then it's like, "Oh yeah, you're gonna die," and then it's just like, oh my god, they genuinely comes across like they couldn't think of anything else.
If we're going to do nights of tangents, here's a tangent for you. It really annoys my wife that I wake up straight away.
My alarm screaming.
My alarm goes off and I wake up and I get up and I'm out of bed like fully awake. She takes like 10-15 minutes to wake up after her alarm goes off. I wake up and I'm straight up. So
Dave,
maybe
that's because you're hardly asleep.
Yes, I know, but that's maybe how Hugo is. Maybe he just wakes up instantly. So the fact that he's lying there unconscious, the next second he's wide awake, that happens to some people. That's how I wake up every day. So yeah.
Right. I'm sorry. I've just read the YouTube.
Argue against that.
I just glanced. I was kind of starting a sentence there. I just looked down and scanned the YouTube. And yeah, can we bring up the latest YouTube comment on screen, please? Got this right.
Okay. Yep, we can do that.
It's giving me a good giggle. This actually.
Yeah.
Gabe has got a point. He has got a point. It says if Coyote had employed the same tactic on Roadrunner twice, he would have succeeded.
Just,
It's always
just
worth
his
painting a tunnel
finger.
in a cave wall. Twice.
That's what I'm getting. I'm
getting.
getting like Colin Baker, just with a big massive brush, just painting a really realistic tunnel on a wall somewhere in a base going, and now Perry, he will run through this and smack his bonds.
But the Doctor actually does that half the time. Half the time, he thinks he's in his own TARDIS, but really he's in mine. That's how he gets the Master half the time.
Yeah,
It
pretty
is
much.
just Wile E. Coyote stuff.
Okay, why have I got Colin Baker's voice in my head going, ah, Perry, the ever-reliable Acme?
No.
That's just amused me. Cheers,
That's
Matt.
where your argument falls down, because as we know from following Colin Baker on Twitter, his parcels never arrive.
Of course.
So,
Yep.
Nah.
Nice idea, but undone by fact.
Undone by every. I'm going to go in defense of the cliffhangers, because this story gives us probably one of the greatest staples of Doctor Who, which is the zoom in on Colin Baker's face cliffhanger. We get two. We get the episode 1 where Hugo's pointing the gun at him, and we get episode 3
and he's there just kind of going,
Perry, where the camera zooms in on his face and he has to emote. He obviously perfects it. By the time we get a trial of the Time Lord, where he's having to do it every week, he's got it down to an absolute T. But yeah, this is the first example of the Colin Baker close-up cliffhanger, and that's a staple. That's What more can I say about that?
Yeah, all stems from the twin dilemma.
Yep.
Yeah, this massively influential.
Yep.
I love the way we're talking about the twin dilemma as if it's like Nirvana's Bleach or something. It's just
probably is. Yeah.
I think a lot of people would drink bleach after watching it.
Well, yeah, it's just my God. No. I don't think anyone is looking at this and at the time and going, oh, you know what? We'll just take this from Twin Dilemma because it'll just be really, really great. You can, it's been improved on, which means it's obviously a half-baked idea to begin with.
Obviously, little Russell and little Stephen sitting in the rooms with the fanfic.
Yep.
Typing away. Little typewriter. Ooh. All I need is an angry Scotsman. Oh, I'm an angry Scotsman. Ooh.
Can we get
plenty of them
agent on the phone? You'll fit the bill.
Sitting there writing, thinking, how will I end this episode? I know. Zoom on Doctor's face. Job done.
I'll do it for the next 3 years.
Yeah.
Okay. Any more to say about the cliffhangers on the twin dilemma?
I think I've made my point. If anyone's watching this and seriously thinks that these are halfway decent, then God help you.
I'll do that in post. I'll just zoom right into Cameron's face when he finishes saying that sentence, just to drive the point home. Okay, in that case, let's go to the next point for the defence. Dave, what have you got on your list?
We've talked about the fact that he spends time becoming the Doctor, and he's got a short space of time to do this in. The final scene with Perry and the Doctor could almost be aimed at all those modern fans who go, no, I don't want a black guy as the Doctor. She's not my Doctor. I don't want a woman. Because he literally just looks at them and goes, fuck you, I'm the Doctor now. Either live with it or don't watch. That's it. That's your choices. And it's such a strong thing for the writers to do, because they knew there'd be backlash. They knew they'd written a completely different Doctor. And they went, no, we're not going to soften it. We're not going to be apologetic. We're going to literally end this by going, I am the Doctor now. You have to put up with this or cancel the show. And we all know what happened. But I saw that and I thought, that's what they should have done now. They could have done it at the end of a Jodie Whittaker episode, or they could do it at the end of the most recent special and go, who am I? I'm the Doctor, and fuck you if you don't like it. And it would have been a brilliant end to one of the anniversary specials.
Happy 60th.
Yes.
Fuck you, audience.
I suspect Disney might have passed a note on that one.
Possibly. But I just think it was such a strong, bold move, which this story has lots of, to say, I'm the Doctor now. I'm not the Doctor you used to. I'm not the Doctor you know and love. I'm different, and I'll choke people. But hey, I'm the Doctor. Full stop. And it's something that would have been both really good and really angered a lot of people if they'd done it in the modern era. And I think some of the people that would have angered are angry at everything anyway. And some of the people that would have brought and kept on board are the kind of people that you want on board as the fandom. Because if you come out and say, I am the Doctor, I have changed, change is a good thing sometimes, but we accept people, that would have been great. I mean, the fact that he's changed into a loud, obnoxious woman choker, not a great change to get behind. But the statement itself, that I am the Doctor now and it's this or nothing, is kind of what the modern fans need reminded of. Because it's been forgotten. Because everyone thinks, well, it's the Doctor, they'll always be on, and it won't. And admittedly, this one went wrong. But it's a great statement for the show to make. And I think it should make that kind of statement more often. So I think the end scene was a great way to end the first story of a new Doctor.
It ends on a smile as well.
Yeah.
You know, it isn't just, you know, I'm the Doctor now, bitch. It is, you know, I'm the Doctor, ha ha ha. And they smile at each other. So they're kind of like, you know, there is that, you know, it's not left as, you know, antagonistic. It is like, oh, okay, then, yeah, I quite like you now.
It's
I'll get to know you.
Church. Yeah.
Go on in prosecution, argue against Colin Baker's cheeky wee smile.
It's not so much fourth wall breaking as fourth wall scratching. It's setting. I think it unwise for a show to have essentially snide digs at its own audience. It's a very, very dangerous ground to set yourself on. I mean, just do your story and just have confidence in your story, which this doesn't. So the obvious thing is the next level we'll have to go down to is to just literally get the Doctor, as we said, almost addressing people who might be doubting him. It comes across as desperate, and it comes across as something that doesn't really have a place in the grand scheme of things. I think if you're going to just be hostile towards your audience, then the writing's kind of on the wall, which, again, from retrospect, we know it pretty much was. Have we had a Doctor do that since? Like, have such a kind of visceral kind of like, you know, fuck you to an audience, or even a coded one? Was it deemed necessary? No.
Yeah.
It just got on with it.
I mean,
but
the 11th Doctor had to ring Clara to apologise for the 12th Doctor. And say, I can tell he's going to be an arse. Just, you know, go with it.
Find
Go on.
yourself a Victor Meldrew on the TARDIS. I'm sorry. It's still me.
Yeah. Just, you know, stick with him. He'll be fine.
But even so, I mean, I've got down here that, you know, this is a regeneration that basically shits on all the regenerations that came. Well, certainly shits on Davison, because he passes comment about how his, you know, the sixth regeneration much improved, etc., in all ways, and then pretty much shits on everything coming after it. Because what's the quote he gives? Yes, it'll have diminishing effects on future regenerations, which kind of inadvertently shits on McCoy as well.
But he's loud and he's egotistical. That's the character he's decided to portray.
Yeah, but it's not. It's a setup for a show that seems to want to isolate the sixth as this outlier. So even from the very start, it was going to be that way. And then to make a further point in essentially, as I say, scratching that fourth wall a little bit to address any doubters in the audience, and tell them to fuck off if they don't like it. It screams of a show which is lacking in confidence to tell its own story.
I think it's the opposite. I think it's overconfident. I think it's a show that thinks we can do whatever we want. We can make the Doctor an arsehole, and we can say, stick our fingers up to the viewing public at the end, because we know, 2.6 more million people are going to come back next time and watch it. It's that sort of hubris and idea that we can just do whatever we want that ultimately leads to the downfall more than anything. It's overconfidence.
So it's a misplaced hubris. It doesn't.
Yeah.
Is that what you're saying? Yeah. So
it's
yeah.
That's what I would certainly argue. The point about it is the fact that it's this. There's a level of, it's almost childish, I think, and it's like, it's the best revenge is living well. Why would you care? Why would you go all the effort of filming a bit that is so obviously designed as a sticking two fingers up? Just don't bother. Just get on with it. Just go forth and do what you want to do.
But the problem is they probably knew that at this point they couldn't go forth and do what they wanted to do because it was the end of the series.
Yeah.
So they wouldn't be back next week. They'd be back in 6 months, a year.
Mm-hmm.
So they had to finish on something properly memorable, even if it was just that one scene, but also make sure that people knew that the change was staying. So they have to go, this is how it's going to be from now on.
Mm-hmm.
Normally it'd be, there's more of this next week, but they can't go, there's more of this next week.
Yeah, but there'll be more of this next series in this instance, isn't it? We've got a few months to wait. And as we've already discussed, there was a definite bounce towards trying to discover what was going to happen and how this new version of the Doctor was going to be played out. But obviously, in the long run, it was not successful.
No.
And is it partly exactly? So is it? It's as I say, it's a misplaced kind of hubris that they've kind of decided to lean into.
I mean, you could say that in the long run it's not successful, but looking at the viewing figures of Doctor Who now that belongs to Disney, I'd say it was quite successful. They took a slight hiatus, but it's now leaning towards one of the biggest shows on television.
Well, we're looking at what? From this being broadcast to it coming back with Eccleston, you're looking at 21 years.
Yep.
So
but there's less time between this and Eccleston than there is between Eccleston and now, almost. So that's closer to Eccleston than we are.
Look up with the first laugh in his head.
if you want to feel old.
Yeah. Baby I conceived on Eccleston's first night can now buy a pint.
Yeah, pretty much, actually.
Yeah.
Not in America, though.
Okay.
No.
They can buy a gun. So, yeah.
And again, we've got another good comment on YouTube, which adds to it.
I have just spotted that popping up, so let's have a little look at that. It's from Gibby again, who says, isn't the scene more for Perry's benefit to partly justify why she stays, making it part of the story?
Yep. Because as Cameron pointed out, she's been choked. She should just want to go home. But instead, she's starting to see that this Doctor is still her Doctor, sort of. She can see the
sort of apart from the attempted murder.
Yes.
She seems very, very quick to forgive. Oh yeah, you're still the Doctor. You're still the nice guy somewhere, apart from the rampaging nutter that I've seen for the last 2 hours.
Yeah, but that's gone. You're better now. You're settled.
He hasn't choked anyone,
and obviously,
an episode.
Yeah.
As we know, he'll treat her exceedingly well in Mind Warp. You know how it is.
Like a regular guy.
Yeah, just a
Chaining
regular
her to the
guy.
rocks.
Chaining her to the rocks.
We've all done it.
And then just selling her off so she can get her mind replaced by her slugs. You know the one.
Yep.
Or Marion Brian Blessed, whichever is worse. I don't know.
But it's on a knife edge, really, isn't it?
It's on a bit of a knife
It's on
edge.
a knife edge.
One leaves a massive trail behind him. The other one
It's
is a slug.
Okay, then. Are we done with that point?
I think so.
Yes.
Yep.
Sounds like we are. Okay, right, that's 2 points each. So, if you've got any other points you want to chuck in before we go to closing statements, now is the time.
Cool.
Let's start with Fraser. You got anything else you want to put into the mix, Fraser?
I'll pick up the Perry thread and run with it a little bit, because I think this is a very good story for Perry. For all that she gets throttled in part one, for the rest of the story, she is actually very assertive. The Doctor is a dickhead to her, but she stands her ground. At the end of part one, she's like, "No, what, mate? I've had enough of your shit. I'm going to call you out on it." And she does. And she does that at several points throughout the story. She doesn't whine on as much as she does in other stories, particularly in season 22, where she just, is running after the Doctor in her little kitten heels and, trying to keep up and a bit exasperated. She is actually quite a positive force in this story. It's one of the few stories where she doesn't actually get ogled at. She's Mestor's wanting to just, spread his seed across the universe. Got nothing to do with Perry. He's quite happy just to...
Excuse me if I can find a note here. I believe there's a
He's picked up on one line somewhere. Here we go.
I did write it down, and I'm going to have to find it now, and I wish I'd highlighted it. Yes, Nestor at one point sort of say, "I find her pleasing."
Oh, the fact you've had to run through your notes to find that. Run through your transcript.
Start of episode 4. He started buying on. So, no, I won't have that.
He's hardly Sharaz Jack, is he?
No.
Well, no, but then again, who the fuck is? He's saying that next to he's not exactly kind of wanting to
the
make
Borad,
Syl. Yeah, it's just every single villain in Perry's whole thing had the hots for Perry. Every single fucking time. This is no different. Not having that in this courtroom. The direct quote, "I find her pleasing," as he kind of swirls his hands together. Nah, he fancies her. He wants to rub his grub, and it's not fun.
The other time is probably when Asmiel says something in part 2, and the Doctor replies that she's a very devout girl, and he takes it away from that. We don't get that again in future stories. We don't get the Doctor kind of sticking up and trying to deflect away the ogling of Perry in other stories.
Usually she's away busy having her mind deleted, though. So
chained to something or someone or something.
So it's not.
So it doesn't get chained up in this one.
No, thankfully.
No? Yeah, I'm checking with you now because I know you've got it written down.
His diaries of Perry's movements.
Perry watch.
8:04 p.m.
Nicola leaves for the shops.
Yes.
At 8:12.
Nicola is walking the dogs today. I will send her a photo of my dog, and then she will marry me.
Yep. Yeah, she gets a lot to do in this.
She does. She does. She has
most
an
of
agency.
it bickering.
She gets more to do than bickering, though. She gets a lot more agency in this story than she will in others, and it gives Nicola a chance to, do a bit more work than literally just running around after the Doctor, going, "What is it, Doctor? What's this?" And
it's a pretty low bar that she's operating on.
It's a bar, nonetheless.
Well, yeah, she manages to clear that ankle height bar
because she doesn't get much else to do in her time. But what she gets to do here is better than what she gets to do with the rest of her time. So that's a win.
It's and emotionally, she's all over the fucking place. One minute she's like, "Oh, that he's great," and then she's near tears when the building explodes at the end of episode 2.
I think I would be as well if my designated driver got blew up on a craggy knob.
The one that's supposed to have killed you at some point.
But
you to death.
Yeah, but it's
He's
not a
still got the
lift.
keys. He's still got the keys for the TARDIS, hasn't he?
Yep.
He's still got the keys to the Almira.
Yeah, her and Hugo aren't going to jumpstart that thing.
Yeah, you can't get an Uber on Titan free.
Nope.
No, indeed. There we go.
Okay, so that's Nicola Bryant's driving arrangements dealt with. Let's go to another point for the prosecution. Have you got anything you want to chuck in, Cam, before closing statements?
Chucking it last minute. I have got here the story of Twin Dilemma itself is ponderous. There's nothing in particular wrong with keeping a steady flow of information, but it takes until episode 4 to have a face-to-face meeting between the Doctor and Nestor. The egg incubation store only is involved at the start of episode 4. It's so dreadfully slow, even by 1980s standards. There's a large chunk of this where it seems like two stories operating separately from each other. And it's very, very late on for them to actually combine and actually make some sort of vague sense with each other. It feels like, usually the villain will have some kind of interaction with the Doctor to set it up, and then the Doctor will have to lose or run away or defend himself somehow, and then at the end we have the Doctor winning. Not so with this. It's basically it waits so long, and so it makes it so interminably dull for the entire duration of the runtime that it finally gets its arse into gear about halfway through episode 4, which is far too late.
I think it goes back to what we were saying about, where this story is positioned in the season. We know 2-part 45-minute episodes are coming up in the next season. And this feels very much like it's almost into that template. You have episodes 1 and 2, which are predominantly TARDIS-based, set on the Craggy Knob before the story then moves to Gioconda in episodes 3 and 4. So you can see how Sherwood is trying to fit that in, and it's a template he will take forward. He will have massively overlong TARDIS scenes in every other story going forward. And he does like that sort of like split down the middle. He does it in Earthshock. You have your first 2 episodes set on Earth, and then things move to the liner. He does it in Attack of the Cybermen. The next story, episode 1 is set on Earth, episode 2 being set on Telos. So it's clearly the way that Sherwood likes to write things. I think if you look at parts 1 and 2, I think there's enough in there to kind of keep you going. It's the obviously episode 1 is all about the new Doctor and throttling and so on and so forth. Episode 2, then we'll get on to Titan 3 and find out the mystery there. Yes, a lot is introduced in episode 4, which explains what's happening. In episode 3, there's a really lovely scene in episode 3 I like, where the Doctor finds the cave paintings which explain the gastropods. And he just kind of like has his torch and he goes, and look, and this is what the gastropods did, and this is what they did. And it kind of reminds us of Snake Dance, where the Doctor finds and I think it's episode 1, he finds the cave painting in Snake Dance, and then takes another 4 fucking episodes to work out what's actually going on with it. Colin Baker does it in 4 minutes flat, whereas Peter Davison takes 4 weeks.
That, for me, also falls into the trap that this story has of a lot of the plot is moved forward by the Doctor just explaining stuff and remembering stuff. He doesn't. The Doctor never really learns anything in this story. He seems to just know it all already. And it's just up to him when he feels it necessary to impart this information upon Perry and Hugo. It's just...
because I think that's another strength of the story, is that, Gioconda actually feels like a real world. You get a sense, like you do with the Marans in Snake Dance, you get a sense of a history behind them, that it's not just like... what's the planet in Time Lash called?
I can't remember off the top of my head.
Carfell, where,
that's it. Yeah.
It's you think this is just a planet of, that could have sprung into existence 20 minutes before the doctor arrived, you get a good sense. You've got the Gicondans, who are the bird people who have been overtaken by the slugs. You've got the history. You've got the desolate wasteland that was once thriving forest. There's a lot of kind of world building there. So I think that fits in well with, the doctor isn't, having to discover so much as remember or explain it, but it doesn't kind of feel out of place. It doesn't feel like, we're getting a sort of exposition overload again, like you do in Snake Dance, where our Adrian from Bread has to turn up to the doctor's prison cell to tell him exactly what's going on before letting him out to go and get bit by a snake. So I think the story does work really well. I think if it wasn't a regeneration story, we might be in a bit of trouble. Because we've got that chunk at the start, which is setting up the new Doctor, then it kind of gets away with it.
Okay.
I'll stick by what I said before.
Okay. You're going to stick to your guns, are you?
I'm sticking to my guns. No, it's not. It's just there's scenes in this where Colin Baker is allowed to just waffle on almost endlessly to try and sort of say, and suddenly the doctor just goes, "Oh yeah, this was this, and they did this, and that did this," and it's like he doesn't. No, none of the information in this story is new to the doctor. It's not as if he suddenly makes any revelation discoveries. He seems to just know it all already, which is a bit of a failing for me.
He does have to take the layers out of the eggs to find out.
Yep.
About that, that they're supernova charged.
About the only thing, though.
Well, you said there was nothing, and then we provided a thing. So,
you can provide your thing off.
Like.
Can I just chuck in at the last minute the fact that, and correct me if I'm wrong here, and I might be, I'm sure you will. Haven't Nestor and Asmiel got the same plan for most of this? You're kind of encouraged to think that one of them's good, one of them's a good guy, one of them's the obvious bad guy invader, but they both seem to want to bring these two planets closer to Gioconda.
For different reasons, though.
Yeah.
Asmiel wants to save his planet. He wants to save the people on Gioconda, because if he doesn't do the plan, then Mestor's going to boil everyone to death with his mind ray. Whereas Mestor wants to spread his seed across the universe.
Just felt like it kind of ruins any kind of like direct competition between the two of them when you're like kind of going, but they both want the same thing.
It gives a bit of
the actual thing is the same thing.
It gives a bit of dimension to Asmiel, in as much as you can't always trust him. You have that sort of cliffhanger at the end where he's quite willing to let Perry go off to her death because he can't be found out, because he's trying to do a different plan or whatever. So there's it's like, is Asmiel a traitor or is he a faithful?
Yeah. Now is he playing both sides?
Yeah.
Most of the time he is.
And it takes the doctor to kind of come along and go, well, actually, even if you do this plan, then you're all screwed, because your two planets are going to collide with the sun and blow you to shit.
Can we also finally talk about the acting quality of the twins involved here?
We can.
I'm surprised it's taken us this long.
Yeah, I just to throw that in at the end there. I mean,
literally
in the title, these two twins. I think the moment, kind of halfway through this, well, not even halfway, like at the end, is when they say about our genius has been abused in the sort of most down sort of played way. Impossible. It's like going, yeah, no shit, Sherlock. They're just no, they are horrific.
Did they ever do anything else?
I'm not sure. We can call up their IMDb credits right now if you want. I mean, while you argue this out, I can go and research it.
And we'll just scroll all the way down the many, many entries.
Twin Dilemma cast. We're here.
I'm going to stick my neck on the line here and say probably not. Not even an episode of Doctors.
It almost feels like their parents were on the crew and they had to take them into work that day.
Well,
they
he actually did. He did. He's the twins' dad was an extra, and he'd been in a few stories, so he got to play a Jacondan security guard. So they had him on set so he could be there to chaperone.
Yeah.
Kill two birds with one. Kill two birds with one stone.
Hey.
So that's a confirmed that bring your talentless children to work day.
Yes.
Yeah.
But I think that the actual twin dilemma, the dilemma of the twins, is where in 1984 does one get two prepubescent male twins who can act? The answer is you can't.
No.
Which
the dilemma was who the fuck gave them the equity card?
Well, it was put to the producer John Nathan Turner that there was an issue with the casting of these twins, and they might want to consider female twins because there was two identical female twins who could act, and if all they did was change the sex, then they would have competent performers. And for reasons best known to himself, John Nathan Turner said, no, it must be boys.
Yeah.
So that was the dilemma of the twin dilemma.
Who would have thought that John Nathan Turner would have plumped for two teenage boys, eh?
I'm as shocked as everyone else.
I have read, and I don't know if it's true, that the original script called for 14-year-old twin children, dark, extremely good looking, almost sexually so. That's apparently what the original script said.
Yep, I believe that's true also.
All of a sudden, the choking of Perry becomes less problematic than other things.
Yeah, it's bigger fish to fry there.
Yeah.
A huge headache.
The BBC in the 1980s had none of that kind of stuff going on.
Oh, no. Clean cut organisation apart from that. Absolutely fine. Unblemished.
I'm surprised.
Okay. Well, let's get away from the murky waters of that. Let's have... Dave, we've got time for one more quick point if you've got one. Do you want to chuck one in?
I've not got much left.
Okay.
There's a nice change between previous stories into this one of not having lots of characters that are massively interchangeable, because you get some, like the villagers in Planet of Fire, where they were all just interchangeable people in sand-coloured clothes. Where in this you've got the Doctor, Perry, Hugo, the old man, the twins, and the Slug bloke. And yes, the chicken people are interchangeable, but they're the only ones that are. Everyone else of this is a single defined character. And it makes a nice change that when somebody gets name checked in a scene, you know who it is they're talking about. And it's not one of three interchangeable people. It's Hugo, the man in the shiny suit. Or it's Mestor, the slug man. And it's a nice change rather than the interchangeables. They would get one character representing each side almost. Which is a small point, but I liked it.
Okay. Small points are also valid, so that's fine. Prosecution, got anything to come back of that one, or?
No, I'll let away with that one.
Okay.
Fine.
All right then. We'll have a free hit there. Okay then. Right, time is getting on. So, shall we go to summings up before we begin to close the votes? That's the format. Okay. All right then. So, I'll let Cam go first. Cam, do you want to give us your reasons why the twin dilemma is guilty of crimes against Doctor Who?
The twin dilemma is guilty of crimes against Doctor Who because, as I kind of touched on at the start of this show, it could have been so much more, and it could have been a defined reimagining of Doctor Who going forward that could have possibly saved it in the long run. And it's not. It fails on pretty much every single count. The Doctor is a arsehole-ish bore throughout the entire thing, who you wouldn't want to travel with. Perry ends up having to jump between like about 3 different emotions, sometimes in the same scene. The story itself is so ponderously slow and drawn out and quite oddly simplistic at the end of it all. The performances in many cases are dire. And it's not the sort of big bang that you want to, a new Doctor to be. It's probably the worst first story that any Doctor gets in this one. I'll throw that one in there at the last possible minute.
All right. Big bomb to chuck in there. Right, let's go to the summings up for the defence then. Dave first. Do you want to tell us why the Twin Dilemma is not guilty of crimes against Doctor Who?
For one thing, it's not guilty because it's nowhere near as bad as people believe it to be. If you actually watch it, I don't think it's even the worst story in this series. The problem it's got is that people watch Androzani and they go, oh, that was good, I really enjoyed that. What's up next? They go, oh, well, this is shit compared with that. And it's not even that bad. It's just different. And I think that's one of the reasons this is not guilty. The Doctor comes in, it's a different Doctor, but they've only got 4 episodes to prove who he is. As I pointed out earlier. By the end of this, you've almost forgotten about the last incarnation of the Doctor because there's nothing here that this is now the Doctor. And you're fine with that. And it's a really strong story for that. Because it is led by the Doctor. The Doctor's in nearly every scene. You might say it's a slow plodding story and it's always up to the Doctor to say what's going on. But that beds in the character. By the end of this, you know exactly who the new Doctor is. You know how he's going to behave. You know how he's going to act. And you know that Perry's on board with it. We've seen the Doctor show different emotions, different sides of himself, and then calm down after his regeneration. So it's not guilty for lots of reasons, but basically it's an enjoyable enough story. It's not as bad as people point out, and it beds in the new Doctor. So that's why it's not guilty.
Okay. All right, and finally, Fraser, do you want to give us your reasons in the summing up as to why the Twin Dilemma is not guilty of crimes against Doctor Who?
Well, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, consider the Twin Dilemma. It is not a classic. It is not the greatest story ever told. One of the greatest stories ever told came before it. What it is, though, is not shit. There is a lot to enjoy. Okay, it's a good story. It's perhaps not as well made as it could have been, but that is to its predecessor's benefit. So that makes that story even better. It's got Colin Baker hitting the ground running, hitting these marks from the very beginning. It gives us a lot of firsts. It gives us, the first close-up of his face as a cliffhanger. It gives us his first, triple line delivery. So, sweet, sweet, sweet. It gives us his coat. I'm on side with Gabe at this one. Colin Baker's coat is a thing of beauty and a thing of wonder. No other Doctor is so instantly recognizable when they walk through the door as the 6th Doctor is. When you look at that coat and you think, this guy is going to be loud. And he is. He's loud. He's bombastic. He is full of energy. He is vibrant. He is utterly, utterly alive. And Colin Baker really brings that out. So yeah, it's got its flaws. Let's not deny that. It's got its flaws, but those flaws aren't enough to make it guilty of crimes against Doctor Who when it has so many other good things going for it. And may your bones rot if you think otherwise. Defense rests.
I'll tell you one person who doesn't think otherwise. Gabe says, yes, the coats.
I had to get it in there for you, Gabe.
There we go. So there we go. Those are strong summings up for the prosecution and defence. There are a couple of minutes left before we shut down the poll. So we are going to go to a short break. You've got a couple of minutes to cast your final votes. When we come back, we will have the result. We will find out whether the Twin Dilemma is guilty or not guilty of crimes against Doctor Who. We'll see you in just a few minutes' time. And we're back. That is it. The poll has closed. It is time to find out whether the twin dilemma has been found guilty or not guilty of crimes against Doctor Who by you, the viewers. Here's the results. It was nip and tuck for most of the night, but eventually it's been found guilty by 65% to 35%, which means it gets cast out into the wilderness and will not be part of our unofficial canon of Doctor Who.
Yep.
So there we go. Cam, you've sneaked back a win. Bookended. One at the start, one at the end. How about that?
Yep. That's how we all like it. The bread in a Dave winning sandwich.
Dave is very much needed. So there we go then. I mean, that's 5-2 overall in the series, but overall, Series 21 has been found not guilty of crimes against Doctor Who. So apart from the Warriors in Deep and the Twin Dilemma, it all goes into the unofficial canon of Doctor Who. Dave, your series champion. Well done. Congratulations again.
Thank you. It's been a struggle, obviously.
Of course. It's taken its toll. By the looks of it.
Doctor Who, it's a nightmare.
It's been a long ride. As series champion, you have the honour and some might say the dubious privilege of deciding where we go next. So, Series 4 of the Polis Box, what are we going to be putting on trial, Dave? What's your choice?
Well, I'll be honest, I only decided fully about 10 minutes ago.
Okay.
Because I've gone through all sorts of things in my head. I thought, after all of the ropey costumes and sets, I thought, I'm going to go new. I want something newer where there's actual special effects. It's not ropey and shaky. But what do I want? And that's where I started to struggle. I don't know what I wanted. Did I want to go all the way back to like Eccleston? Or do I want to even go Jodie? I'm like, I don't know where to go. But we had all these discussions earlier about Capaldi. And I thought, you know what? It's time we did a Capaldi series.
Oh, okay. We're new.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought, what's a good Capaldi series that shows proper Capaldi? Because not season 1, because he's too Colin Baker angry dick. And probably not his last season. So I'm going to go with season 10, which is the one that starts with the pilot and ends with the Doctor Falls.
Oh, okay. Well, I think if you're choosing that, we're going to have to jump in the Christmas special at the end as well, because that's a culmination of the whole series in a way. So that's an extra episode tacked on. But Series 10 is your final choice?
Yes.
Excellent. Well, that's what we're going to do in Series 4 of the Polis Box Live then. We will be putting on trial Series 10 of the new series, Capaldi's final series as the Doctor. We've still yet to decide who's going to prosecute and defend that. So what's the choice here? Do you want to swap sides or do you want to put it out to a vote on Twitter? What's the deal? What are we going to do?
In an ideal world,
Twitter poll.
We'd swap.
It's like there's one
it doesn't
tell me what to do and what to go for.
It doesn't half get exhausting, watching Doctor Who just to hate it. I don't know how some folk do that on the internet. Because
some people
it's really fucking exactly. Some people find it really easy. I don't. I find it really fucking tiring. Yeah. So again, in an ideal world, we'd do that, but
and I've just spent months defending the Twin Dilemma, and it's like, so I could do with saying things that I don't like about Doctor Who for a while. Okay. But having said, I'm fine if we do a Twitter poll as well.
Okay. It seems like you're both very keen to switch sides here, so I think probably that's best, isn't it? We'll switch around for the next series.
Okay.
God damn, I should have picked a different series with some crap in it. I like most of these.
I genuinely thought for a minute Dave was going to go, we're going to do season 2 and Cam's going to defend. And
that day will
come. That's what I thought was coming. I thought that was coming. In which case, if Dylan Reese can change sides halfway through, that's the exception I'm making.
I like that's not still not sore for you. You've got over it, moved on.
Because there is absolutely no. Yeah, thanks, Dylan. There is absolutely no chance in fucking hell am I ever defending Vera.
We'll see. We'll see.
No, yeah, we will see that I will not defend Vera. But no, I'm just scrolling down season 10.
I was tempted by season 9, but it's got fucking Zygons in it.
We've done Zygons.
So much.
So it says, oh, it's got Empress of Mars.
Yep.
Okay. World Enough in Time. Fine. Dr. Falls, as we said. So is it Twice Upon a Time the Christmas special we're doing?
That's correct, yes.
Right, okay. I was going to say, it's Doctor Mysterio we've already done a few years ago.
Yeah, that's correct, yeah.
Okay, there's fresh ones in here. We've not done much of these.
Yeah.
Thin Ice. Nice. Smile.
There's stuff there to get your teeth into as well for both sides.
Yeah.
Yes, there is.
And it'll be our first new series on the Polis Box Live as well. So it'll be a nice refreshing change. So there we go.
That'll be really good, actually.
Series 4 of the Polis Box Live is going to be Series 10 of Doctor Who and New Money. That's it for the end of this series. However, Frazer, thank you very much for joining us tonight. It's been a pleasure to finally have you on board.
Thank you very much for having us, and thank you everyone who's watched and voted, especially the ones that voted the right way. Much appreciated.
We appreciate you all.
We do appreciate you all. Some final comments just before we finish up the show. Gabay says Murka and Mestor wins. This is true. Yeah. There we go. Daniel Ronsley, the Bard himself, has been in touch to say a very spirited defence by Frazer and Dave, but sadly the prosecution had him in a stranglehold.
Before cowering in a wardrobe.
And finally, Cy Hart says, fair play for trying to defend it so well.
Cheers, Zach.
Which I echo that statement. Well done, guys. You've got a good fight. So, well done. Before we finish up, actually, Frazer, if there's anything you want to give a plug to you're involved in, now's the time.
Oh, you can find me on various other podcasts. Hamster with a Blunt Penknife, Trap One being the most prolific ones. Shall I say? Is that the right word? Possibly. Doctor Who Literature. Yeah, you can find us anywhere, to be honest. Anyone who'll have us, I'll come on and talk Doctor Who.
Is that free and easy, folks?
Yep.
Well, that's it for the Polis Box Live Series 3, and what a series it's been. We've had a lot. We've had arranged marriages, we've had courtroom treachery, wince-inducing bollock stories, and a premiere to rival Michael Jackson's Thriller. We'd like to say a big thank you to everyone involved in this series. First of all, our guests over the last few episodes, namely Joe Ford, Dave Rennie, Mark Donaldson, Ben Verf, Dylan Rees, and of course Frazer Gregory. To all of you who have submitted viewer evidence and comments through YouTube throughout the series, to everyone who voted in the polls. It's somewhat of a cliche for a show to say that without you there wouldn't be a show, but genuinely the Polis Box Live wouldn't be half the show it is without you all. So thank you very much for taking part. We really do appreciate it. And to prove how much you mean to all of us, in the next episode, we're going to be bringing back two men who upset practically all of you during our Christmas special. We'll be back on July the 4th with Andy Kent and Kevin Greenan, and possibly other guests too, for our Polis Box Summer Special. So we're going to keep the contents of that a little secret until near the time, so keep an eye on Twitter. So there we go. That's all the business settled. Twin Dilemma, Guilty of Crimes Against Doctor Who, Series 10 next time. This has been the Polis Box Live Series 3. Thank you very much for watching. Thank you very much for joining in. We will see you on July the 4th. Until then, good night, everybody.
Good night.
Good night, folks.